when travel permits, and it does. We are joined by the expert, longtime beat writer for the Niners, We're The Athletic. By the way, update. It turns out Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma. Yeah, how about that?
There we go. We knew that.
We knew that. Everything Matt comes on is like, what have they been talking about? It is Matt Barrows. Good morning, buddy.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good.
Great, how are you?
I assume you are still in Florida awaiting your flight home, or did you get out yesterday?
No, David Lombardi and I divvy up the away games, and this was a David game.
Damn.
And besides, I'm not allowed in the state of Florida after that incident back in 1986.
Still?
You know the one, the crime of passion.
Yeah. The Gator still hasn't recovered. Remember. That's called seniority, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, Lombardi, hit the East Coast, pal. Good for you.
Well, I am going to Seattle on Thanksgiving, so I'm not throwing my weight around too much this season.
They're throwing turkeys in the public market. Yep, I got it. Fine place to have Thanksgiving at. Hopefully another win. But Matt, last week, Jason and I all day have been talking about this game and saying, everything we hoped for from a Niner fan's point of view and obviously a franchise point of view, it pretty much happened. No major injuries. Offense woke up. Debo, Trent Williams, and then everything on the defense. The Ohio State Buckeye bookends meeting in the middle. Trevor Lawrence having. I don't know that game, other than McCaffrey getting in the end zone, I don't know the game could have gone much better for the Niners than it did yesterday.
No, you're absolutely right, and that play in the second quarter, the Jaguars are starting to put something together, and you've got Chase Young rushing from the right side and Nick Bosa rushing from the left. And you're right, they meet at the quarterback. I mean, it's just almost cliche how it happened. Like if you had drawn it up or written it as a screenwriter, someone would have said, "Oh, well, that's a little convenient there to have it happen like that." But that's the way it did, and that's sort of the beginning. I mean, that's how Nick Bosa sees it. Chase Young is just learning this defense. They're just getting sort of reacquainted, and he sees this as being something that's going to get better and better as the season goes on. I mean, one of the things that caught my eye was that Nick Bosa has been the king of chip blocks, tight ends, running backs, sort of gumming up his pass rushes. Well, the guy who's getting the chips the most yesterday was Chase Young. So Bosa didn't really have to deal with that, and I think he's just kind of dreaming of a scenario where the chip blocks that he gets reduces by at least 50%, and that's going to obviously create more opportunities for him.
Talking with Matt Barrows here. Matt, last year when the 49ers traded for Christian McCaffrey, obviously there was a talent upgrade, but it just felt like there was an emotional lift to the team, and then they got crazy hot. Are there any parallels to that, too, with Chase Young? Because the defense was already pretty good, but not always playing their best. You get an improve in talent, but then is that lift there, too, that you're seeing right now?
Yeah, I mean, we saw it yesterday for sure. The 49ers seem to have one of these get-right games every season. They usually come against the Rams. That was the one where Christian McCaffrey last year had the passing touchdown, the rushing touchdown, and the receiving touchdown. This year, that game came against the Jaguars, and as good as the offense looked in L.A. last year with McCaffrey, that's how good the defense looked yesterday in Jacksonville with Chase Young. And I'm not saying that Chase Young was the reason for it. I think that there was a lot of kind of frustration. He got this defensive line, and they make so much money. So many former first rounders. I think there was sort of a pride thing going on too. That we haven't been playing like ourselves. Let's have a game where we sort of reassert ourselves and sort of announce to the world that we're back. And that's exactly what happened. They were, that defensive line was on fire, whether Chase Young was in the game or he wasn't. So, but you're right. I think there was a certain energy there. I think they were well rested. As Dave said, I think everything sort of came together at the right time for this team.
Matt Barrows joining us. We can talk about the offense in a second, but just that defense, it was just crushing. And when you look at the numbers, 5 sacks, 6 passes defended, 10 times they got to Trevor Lawrence. does it make it difficult with all that? You have the bye week, you have health, you have Chase Young joining, with all the different things. Does it make it a little more difficult to really isolate how much, if any, Steve Wilks being on the sideline helped?
Yeah, everybody uniformly downplayed that.
Yeah.
But you could see it. I mean, you could see it. And there were, I don't know how many shots of Steve Wilks on the sidelines. There were, let's just say it was 10. I think that was in the ballpark. But each one, Wilks is increasingly ebullient. I mean, but you just see sort of the energy there. And everybody said that they heard his voice. Apparently, Wilks has a very distinctive voice. I think that's maybe a story follow-up at some point. But point being that there was like an energy surge. At the beginning of the game, it was high, and it only got bigger as the game went on. So, and that's in keeping with, what Robert Saleh did on the sideline and what D'Amico Ryan said on the sideline. Yeah, I don't think it's so much the play calls. Play calls aren't going to be any different sideline versus him in the booth. But, that's what the 49ers are. And they're a team of great energy. And if the coordinator's down there being a part of that, I can only think that gets better. I mean, I think that the Steve Wilks triumph was the play calling. I don't know specifically what they did, but the defensive players were saying that they did something to Trevor Lawrence that Lawrence hasn't seen before this season, which is why he had to, what they call pat the ball, hold on to the ball longer than he would like to do. He's a guy that got rid of the ball very quickly in the first 8 games of the season for the Jaguars, and that was part of their formula for success. He was holding on to it in the game, and that allowed the defensive line to kind of get in there and get those sacks. I mean, I think a big difference is that Kirk Cousins is a veteran quarterback, seen it all. The Bengals quarterback, Joey Burrow, is the same way. They're playing a guy on Sunday that just doesn't have that experience, and a good defensive coordinator can take advantage of that. So I think that was a very necessary game for Steve Wilks. He basically came up with the right game plan, and you have all these guys that are just rearing to go. You put that together, and then you get the final score, lopsided score.
Talking with Matt Barrows, brought to you by Stockton Honda, Northern California's #1 Honda dealer. So in the 3 losses that they had in a row, 17 points was all they were getting. Offense gets a few guys back. Here they are over 30 again. So every time they've won, they're 30 or more. How satisfying was that performance for Kyle Shanahan and the offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just another strong game from Brock Purdy. Every head coach talks about, our quarterback really needs to take care of the football. Taking care of the football is paramount. Winning the turnover battle is paramount. And Shanahan says those things too, but I think that Shanahan really likes an aggressive quarterback. I think that is for Shanahan, that is paramount. That's the most important trait that the quarterback can have, that he rips it in Shanahan parlance. And that's exactly what Brock Purdy does. He doesn't have a kind of restraining conscience as far as throwing the ball. And you saw that on that first touchdown, and Shanahan said afterwards that may have been the worst decision I've seen Brock Purdy make, but obviously the decision ended up with a score, and he kind of had that mentality throughout the game. I mean, you would think that maybe a quarterback who had thrown 5 interceptions in the last 3 games would be a bit chastened coming into this one, would be a little bit careful. He wasn't. And I think that matters to Shanahan, and Shanahan really loved what he saw from Purdy in that game.
I know the defenses make a difference, obviously. I know the defenses are different. But I'm telling you, if I've never watched an NFL game before and I'm watching that game, and you tell me one of the quarterbacks is a generational top pick and the other one was the last pick in the draft, I'm not so sure I'm not looking at the guy in red as the generational pick.
For sure. I mean, and his superpower is his quick decision making. Yeah. I mean, and the play to to George Kittle, early in the third quarter. That was the play that broke the game open. He sees Kittle against a linebacker, and he makes that's an automatic decision for a 49ers quarterback. When you see Kittle matched against the linebacker, you go to Kittle. But he wasn't able to get the ball off on that first hitch, and then all of a sudden he's just surrounded. It's like he's throwing from a cave or something. And then I didn't even think that he could even see Kittle when he actually lets go of the ball. But that just kind of underscores that mentality that I'm talking about. I'm going to get that ball to that tight end no matter what. And he puts it in a place. It wasn't a safe place. It wasn't, down on the outside, near the sideline where, it's either Kittle catches it or no one does. He puts it out in the middle of the field or kind of angling towards the middle of the field. Kittle catches it in stride and literally walks into the end zone. I mean, that's what Shanahan wants. He wants a guy that's going to go for the throat when that opportunity is there, and that's what happened on that play.
I know they've got Seahawks coming up at Tampa first. Matt, just an early thought on this upcoming weekend's matchup.
Yeah, I mean, this was the Brock Purdy first start last year against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So that'll be it's a familiar foe for him in that regard. I think that Nick Bosa and Chase Young are going to have a good time going against Baker Mayfield. I think that's going to be a storyline as well. But as good as the 49ers played, I think they're going to be expected to win this one and win it fairly handily, which will be a test in itself. You could argue that the 49ers got a little bit full of themselves coming out of that Cowboys win earlier this year, and then had trouble in Cleveland, and then lost the next two as well. So this will be a nice test, but like I said earlier, I think Bosa is expecting even better things to come. Chase Young didn't play on that first series. Came in on the second play of the second series and basically played the rest of the game. And most of the time, he was the bookend opposite Bosa. Bosa's just been dreaming of this scenario ever since D Ford got hurt midway through the 2019 season. Bosa has been hoping for a bookend like this, and he's got it. So, everything on paper is there. They just got to make it happen. But the early returns are good.
Well, then, Matt, we can finish this way. It's a perfect lead-in. We're all so impressed with Chase Young's addition and the defense. And you mentioned the bookends and the fact that these guys, Bosa and Young, couldn't, I'm sure, be happier being reunited. And much was made during the trade of how genius it was that they gave up a compensatory pick. They're going to get a compensatory pick likely if Young leaves via free agency. My question for you is this a tryout in some sense for Chase Young? And with the cap room, but also the cap increases, the salary increases next year, do you see a world in which John Lynch retains Chase Young long-term on this team?
I don't think that's the initial thought of this team. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, all sorts of things happen in this league. Nobody thought that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be on last year's squad. He was. So, I think if you asked Lynch that question, he would say that how would Lynch answer it? Lynch would keep his options open,
sure.
I would say. And I think that's exactly right. I mean, they would have the wherewithal to do that, but they would have to make other moves. And who knows? I mean, there could be, some big things that happen in the last half of the season. We got half a season yet to go.
Yeah.
Lots of scenarios can take place. We saw the team's starting quarterback get a massive injury on his elbow in the championship game last year. So those types of things can happen. I don't want to give them voice because they're mostly bad things.
Sure.
But you can see where I'm going with this. Where they might need a stud defensive end in some scenarios. So I think that's available to them, but I don't think that's the overarching scenario right now.
That's Matt Barrows of The Athletic. Check him out at The Athletic on the app, theathletic.com. Subscribe just like I do. Jason does. We all do. And hear from guys like Matt Barrows, David Lombardi, he mentioned as well, and so many others, not just on Niner coverage, but all the teams you love. Matt, appreciate you. Have a, I was going to say have a safe flight home. Have a safe, I don't know, walk to your kitchen. And,
I got to get up out of the sofa at some point. That can be precarious at my age, really.
And you know what? And maybe next year's the year they let you back in Florida.
Maybe.
Yeah. Once that gator goes, yeah, for sure.
A Florida man, Matt Barrows.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We'll